Tuning into brainwave rhythms speeds up learning in adults. Tuning into brainwave rhythms speeds up learning in adults. You're listening to Technical News Reading, presented by Hakeem Alibokis Alexander on Spreaker. Social podcasting, presented for World Reading Club in association with UniquilibriuM. This edition's reading focus comes to us from neurosciencenews.com and is titled Tuning into Brainwave Rhythms Speeds Up Learning in Adults. It was published under the categories of neuroscience on January 31st, 2023. Summary. Tuning into a person's brainwave cycle before they perform a learning task can dramatically improve the speed at which cognitive skills improve. Source: University of Cambridge. Scientists have shown for the first time that briefly tuning into a person's individual brainwave cycle before they perform a learning task dramatically boosts the speed at which cognitive skills improve. Calibrating rates of information delivery to match the natural tempo of our brains increases our capacity to absorb and adapt to new information, according to the team behind the study. University of Cambridge researchers say that these techniques could help us retain neuroplasticity much later in life and advance lifelong learning. Each brain has its own natural rhythm generated by the oscillation of neurons working together, said Professor Zoe Kortzi, senior author of the study from Cambridge's Department of Psychology. We simulated these fluctuations so the brain is in tune with itself and in the best state to flourish. Our brain's plasticity is the ability to restructure and learn new things, continually building on previous patterns of neuronal interactions. By harnessing brainwave rhythms, it may be possible to enhance flexible learning across the lifespan, from infancy to older adulthood, Kortzi said. The findings, published in the journal Cerebral Cortex, will be explored as part of the Center for Lifelong Learning and Individualized Cognition, a research collaboration between Cambridge and Nanyang Technological University, NTU, Singapore. The neuroscientists used an electroencephalography, or EEG, sensors attached to the head to measure electrical activity in the brain of 80 study participants and sample brainwave rhythms. The team took alpha wave readings. The mid-range of the brainwave spectrum, this wave frequency tends to dominate when we are awake and relaxed. Alpha waves oscillate between 8 to 12 Hz, a full cycle every 85 to 125 milliseconds. However, a person has their own peak alpha frequency within that range. Scientists use these readings to create an optical pulse, a white square flickering on a dark background at the same tempo as each person's individual alpha wave. Participants got a 1.5 second dose of personalized pulse to set their brain working at its natural rhythm, a technique called entrainment, before being presented with a tricky, quick-fire cognitive task. trying to identify specific shapes within a barrage of visual clutter. A brainwave cycle consists of a peak and trough. Some participants received pulses matching the peak of their waves, some the trough, while some got rhythms that were either random or at the wrong rate, a little faster or slower. Each participant repeated over 800 variations of the cognitive task, and the neuroscientist measured how quickly people improved. The learning rate for those who locked into the right rhythm was at least 3 times faster than for all the other groups. When participants returned the next day to complete another round of tasks, those who learned much faster under entrainment had maintained their higher performance level. It was exciting to uncover the specific conditions you need to get this impressive boost in learning, said first author Dr. Elizabeth Michael, now at Cambridge's Cognition and Brain Sciences Unit. The intervention itself is very simple, just a brief flicker on a screen, but when we hit the right frequency plus the right phase alignment, it seems to have a strong and lasting effect. Importantly, entrainment pulses need to chime with the trough of a brainwave. Scientists believe this is the point in the cycle when neurons are in a state of high receptivity. We feel as if we constantly attend to the world, but in fact our brains take rapid snapshots, and then our neurons communicate with each other to string the information together, said co-author Professor Victoria Long from NTU and Cambridge's Department of Pediatrics. Our hypothesis is that by matching information delivery to the optimal phase of a brainwave, we maximize information capture because this is when our neurons are at the height of excitability. Previous work from Long's baby LINC lab shows that brainwaves of mothers and babies will synchronize when they communicate. Long believes the mechanism in this latest study is so effective because it mirrors the way we learn as infants. We are tapping into a mechanism that allows our brain to align to temporal stimuli in our environment, especially communicative cues like speech, gaze, and gesture that are naturally exchanged during interactions between parents and babies, said Long. And finally we come up to our featured image that's used here on Spreaker and elsewhere as a thumbnail. The caption reads, "The Brainwaves experiment set up in the Adaptive Brain Lab, led by Professor Zoe Corsi in the University of Cambridge's Department of Psychology. The image credit is to the University of Cambridge." Neuroscience News continues. When adults speak to young children, they adopt child-directed speech, a slow and exaggerated form of speaking. This study suggests that child-directed speech makes a spontaneous way of rate matching and entraining the slower brainwaves of children to support learning. The researchers say that while the new study tested developed visual perception, these mechanisms are likely to be domain general, applying to a wide range of tasks and situations, including auditory learning. They argue that potential applications for brainwave entrainment may sound like the stuff of science fiction, but are increasingly achievable. While our study used complex EEG machines, there are now simple headband systems that allow you to gauge brain frequencies quite easily, said Corsi. Children now do so much of their learning in front of screens. One can imagine using brainwave rhythms to enhance aspects of learning for children who struggle in regular classrooms, perhaps due to attentional deficits. Other early applications of brainwave entrainment to boost learning could involve training in professions where fast learning and quick decision-making is vital, such as pilots or surgeons. Virtual reality simulations are Alright, repeating. Other early applications of brainwave entrainment to boost learning could involve training in professions where fast learning and quick decision-making is vital, such as pilots or surgeons. Virtual reality simulations are now an effective part of training in many professions, Corsi said. Implementing pulses that sync with brainwaves in these virtual environments could give new learners an edge, or help those retraining later in life. About this learning research news. Author Fred Luzzi. Source University of Cambridge. Contact Fred Luzzi, University of Cambridge. The image is in the public domain, and credited to the University of Cambridge on neurosciencenews.com. The original research is under open access and is from a paper titled Learning at Your Brain's Rhythm. Individualized entrainment boosts learning for perceptual decisions, by Zoe Corsi and others in Cerebral Cortex. You've been listening to Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander, and you're listening to World Reading Club, presented by Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander on Spreaker, social podcasting, presented for World Reading Club in association with UniquilibriuM. This edition's reading focus comes to us from neurosciencenews.com and is titled Tuning into Brainwave Rhythms Speeds Up Learning in Adults. Neurosciencenews.com continues with an abstract from the closed access paper which is titled Learning at Your Brain's Rhythm, or the abstract is titled Learning at Your Brain's Rhythm. Individualized entrainment boosts learning for perceptual decisions. Training is known to improve our ability to make decisions when interacting in complex environments. However, individuals vary in their ability to learn new tasks and acquire new skills in different settings. Here, we test whether this variability in learning ability relates to individual brain oscillatory states. We use a visual flicker paradigm to entrain individuals at their own brain rhythm, i.e. peak alpha frequency, as measured by resting state. Okay, so we use a visual flicker paradigm to entrain individuals at their own brain rhythm, i.e. peak alpha frequency, as measured by resting rate electroencephalography, EEG. We demonstrate that this individual frequency-matched brain entrainment results in faster learning in a visual identification tasks, i.e. detecting targets embedded in background clutter, compared to entrainment that does not match an individual's alpha frequency. Further, we show that learning is specific to the phase relationship between the entraining flicker and the visual target stimulus. EEG during entrainment showed that individualized alpha entrainment boosts alpha power, induces phase alignment in the EEG during entrainment showed that individualized alpha entrainment boosts alpha power, induces phase alignment in the pre-stimulus period, and results in shorter latency of early visual evoked potentials, suggesting that brain entrainment facilitates early visual processing to support improved perceptual decisions. These findings suggest that individualized brain entrainment may boost perceptual learning by altering gain control mechanisms in the visual cortex, indicating a key role for individual neural oscillatory states in learning and brain plasticity. You've been listening to Technical News Reading, presented by Hakeem Ali Bokus Alexander on Spreaker, social podcasting, presented for World Reading Club in association with UniquilibriuM. This edition's reading focus comes to us from neurosciencenews.com and is titled Tuning into Brainwave Rhythms Speeds Up Learning in Adults. It was published on January 31st, 2023, under the category of Neuroscience. You can read this article and others like it for yourself by visiting neurosciencenews.com. That's NEUROSCI.